Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. I am your host, Nina Joshi. Wanted to run through a couple of quick announcements for you all. We have New York City Health Innovation Week coming up very quickly next month. All of the tickets are available in the chat or the QR code. We also have our AARP challenge that's available as well. Applications are open for that. And with that, we'd like to formally announce our guest for today, Abigail Pohl, who is an associate at Global Health Innovation Fund at Merck. Thank you so much for being here, Abigail. So nice to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I think maybe a great place to kick us off would be if you could just share a little bit more about your career journey and really what led you to where you are right now at Merck.
Yeah, definitely. So I, growing up, was always really interested in entrepreneurship as well as healthcare. And so when I got to college, I explored those areas through my major. So I was an econ major and a global health minor. And then I also did an internship in private equity to kind of explore more of the business side. But then after that, I was really excited about getting more experience on kind of working at the intersection of healthcare and business, and what that looked like in the real world, especially from more of a technology and startup angle. So after Middlebury, I went to work as a consultant at Accenture. And while I was there, I spent a lot of time in the digital health space. So I helped pharma companies with their digital health strategies. I worked with some corporate venture funds on due diligence for digital health investments. And then I also launched the digital health community of practice at Accenture. But the majority of my time was actually spent with Merck GHI, so my current role, helping them with their due diligences and strategic support of their portfolio companies. And so what that looked like was, most of the year we would sort of be on call whenever GHI was doing a new diligence. We would be there to do the financial and kind of commercial due diligence and help with the building of kind of investment memorandum materials, and then support them all the way through the investment. And then once they made an investment, we would help them with strategic support of the portfolio companies. And I really enjoyed working with that team, working with management teams, learning about all these new areas. And so when they eventually decided that they wanted to kind of bring us in-house, I was very excited to hop over. So I officially joined Merck about 3 years ago, and have been focused on the digital health space ever since.
That is incredible. And I'm so curious too, because I really like how you were kind of talking about the intersection that you found between the various disciplines that you really liked. Was there something in specific that kind of led you to really wanting to hone in on kind of the healthcare investment side of the house? Maybe it was just the great relationship that you had with Merck.
Yeah, no, great question. For me, growing up, I was always, kind of doing random businesses. Like when I was a kid, I would sell painted rocks. And I actually started kind of like a shorts company in college. So always interested in like startups.
Mhm.
And then I also really cared about kind of healthcare access for everybody. And, why is the status quo, and how can we make that better? And so I got really excited about how can technologies be used to, improve healthcare for more people, improve access, and especially for women, how can we use technology to improve how healthcare is delivered today? And so when I had the chance to jump over to Merck and spend time looking at healthcare technologies and digital health startups, I was really excited to do that, and so have been happy to spend my time there.
That is incredible. And I mean, as someone that has spent so much time, really speaking to founders and kind of being involved in that ecosystem, for you, what do you kind of consider some of the more important aspects for advocating for women's health, kind of in your current role?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny, I actually just read the craziest stat that really stood out to me, but women spend 25% more time with poor health than men. And so if you think about, average woman's lifespan is 79, that means about 20 years of not living life to kind of our full potential. And so to me, I just really felt kind of shook by that statistic, and felt like, at this point in time, with the level of research and technology and advancements that have been done to date, why is women's health still an area where there is still this disparity? And so I looked a little bit more into that, and I realized that we've historically underinvested in women's health. And we've also approached treatment and research as one size fits all for both women and men, even though women are, there can be differences in how we respond to healthcare and the different needs that we have. And so for me, I realized, we have all this technology, but it feels like the mismatch is really in the awareness aspect. And
Mhm.
so if we can kind of improve awareness about what are women's needs, what are the tools out there today, and kind of what are the gaps, then and especially making key decision makers aware of these different gaps, then it feels like there's a huge opportunity. And so for me, that's why I think, advocating for women's health, advocating for what you need, making sure that your voice is heard in the healthcare system, and then seeing how we can address those gaps that are there today with technology and research and funding, it just seems like a huge opportunity. And it really does feel like it's reaching an inflection point now with more people talking about it. But I feel really excited about the future.
100%. I really like how you're just calling out awareness as being like such an important but very, I think, just like table stakes kind of component to women's health. Wanted to ask you a little bit about about fund, about Merck Global Health Innovation. For you, what is kind of the approach that you and Merck takes when evaluating investment opportunities in the healthcare sector? Is there kind of a specific philosophy or strategy that you all implement when kind of making these decisions?
Yes, great question. So the Merck Global Health Innovation Fund, our mandate is to support Merck by bringing in kind of healthcare startups and new healthcare technologies across the pharma value chain. And so our mandate is that we make both financial and strategic investments. And so when we invest in a company, we not only want it to be successful financially, we also aim to bring value to Merck, either through a potential partnership or just learning about new technologies in the healthcare space, to just improve awareness of what is out there that could potentially be used. And so what that means for us is where we usually start is we speak with our Merck business units. And so that can be across research and development, that could be in commercial, that could be in supply chain. And we spend a lot of time familiarizing ourselves with their needs. And so, for example, in commercial, if they're having a hard time getting, patient engagement, how can we think about ways to address that? And so we'll understand what the business unit's needs are, and then we'll spend time generating kind of an investment thesis in that area. So understanding what are the pain points, what are the problems, and then, what can be done about that. And then we'll typically do a market scan. And so we'll, look at that space, identify the different sub verticals, look at all the startups that fall into those verticals. And then from there, we'll prioritize the startups based on both their kind of financial viability and their, relevance to Merck. And if it kind of checks both of those boxes, that's when we'll generally pursue a next step with them, which would be, having an intro call or engaging in potential diligence if they're fundraising. So what that results in is an investment in a portfolio company. And generally, our goal is to have them down the road work with Merck. So it kind of comes full circle, identifying the need and then also hopefully addressing it down the road.
Totally. And it's very cool that you kind of spend a lot of time upfront understanding each of these different aspects of Merck and really what their core gaps, needs, wants are. It seems like such like a very personalized, perfect fit approach that you have to investing.
It's really helpful. We're really lucky to have so many people within the business that are, they're the experts. They know so much about each different space. And so being able to come to them and really pick their brains and understand what are their needs, what are they excited about, what are their pain points. We're so lucky to have that. It's basically like having an expert network in-house that we can leverage at any time. Because I know at Accenture, we used to use GLG, which is also such a great resource. But having, a whole thousands of experts, right within our own company is also incredible. And we've learned so much from working with the business. So it's really helpful. And then it's also so exciting when we do help to make the connection between one of our portfolio companies and the business, and they end up working together, tracking the outcomes of that and seeing the results has been really exciting.
That is amazing. And if you are at liberty to share, can you highlight, is there a specific investment or like success story that you've kind of been involved in where you've been able to see how it has been able to create this type of impact? If you're able to share that info.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of, we invested in a data and analytics company called Trinetics. And so they're like a real world data network. And so I guess we initiated the investment given that the space was, really active and we wanted to learn more about it. And the company was great. They had a great team. They had a great strategy, and we were really aligned with their mission. And so
Mhm.
we invested in them a number of years ago. And then as part of our investment, we also help, we work with our portfolio companies and provide any support that we can. And so we engaged on a kind of strategic frameworking session with them. And what that means is we took a look at what their current product offerings were and worked really closely with the company to understand where they could go in terms of both product and customer expansion.
Mhm.
And so we did a ton of research with them for a couple months, looking at all the different opportunities. And then we all came together as a group with the management team to do kind of a strategy in-person full-day session, where we kind of looked at the different roadmap options, thought about customer expansion, thought about product expansion, and then ended up prioritizing kind of a short list of opportunities to go after that eventually translated into part of their product roadmap. And so kind of watching over time, working really closely with the management team, and seeing how they all work together, and really seeing, how a product is born from the beginning, and where the inspiration comes from, and then how it's executed on, was really exciting for me. And then in a few months later, being able to witness the collaboration between Merck and Trinetics as Merck ended up using their services was really exciting as
Wow.
well.
That's awesome to kind of see it all come full circle in that way.
Exactly. It was great. And it's a
That's
great management team and just a great company.
definitely. And I can only imagine as a founder being able to have, like the brain power of a collaborator like Merck can only be, so invaluable. So it seems like such a great type of collaborative framework that's developed here.
Yeah, we
That's
definitely, I think, both get a lot out of it.
It's great. One of the things that you were kind of speaking to about the various gaps and kind of how you're really able to have boots on the ground talking to these different aspects of the company. For you, I'm just so curious, as you're kind of having these conversations, are you kind of seeing any kind of key challenges that are impacting women, like women's health? Is there anything that has kind of stood out to you as you're, talking to all of these folks, whether it's commercial or R&D, et cetera, where you're kind of seeing maybe some themes as it relates to women's health or gaps in that space?
Yeah, so there's a couple, and I will say that's women's health is not necessarily a focus area of our fund, but it's something that I'm personally interested in. So from kind of my own experiences and what I've seen, I think everyone knows that kind of maternal care is a huge kind of area of focus right now. We have people like the Olympian Allison Felix have a very kind of shockingly difficult birth story that she very bravely shared with the world and kind of used to advocate for women's health in general. And then we're seeing so many companies pop up in the kind of maternity, postpartum support space as well. And so, as well as fertility. And so I think, having the discussion around that, but then also being aware that women's health is not only related to fertility or pregnancy or postpartum, and kind of tying the loop, closing the loop between women's health is not just that portion of your life. It's also, from when you're a child to when you're a grandmother.
Right.
And so there are definitely companies that are coming out and trying to create more holistic solutions for how women get their healthcare. So one that's top of mind is Tia Health, which I, just think is a really interesting business model where they provide everything from just your primary care to your OBGYN, and then everything in between, including mental health, and really taking a holistic approach to healthcare. So I think, addressing the immediate issues that we see in terms of what comes to mind when you think about women's health, but then also recognizing that it is this like very broad spectrum and that there's different ways to think about it and kind of integrate women's health into just your regular primary care.
100%. Also love TS, so that was I like that shout out. I wholeheartedly agree. I definitely think that having that approach of there's kind of these specific milestones, these specific moments where I think it's been brought to light where there are so many gaps, but exactly to your point, it really is a continuum of making sure that we have that support, kind of whatever milestone that we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Wanted to also kind of ask, you had mentioned a little bit earlier too around the philosophy of the fund and how it's, thinking about it from a financial component as well as a strategic component. For you and for Merck, how do you kind of balance the financial goals of the fund, of the investments that you have, but also with kind of the social impact that they can create too? Is there a particular, formula or methodology that you have to kind of account for both?
So this is a great question. It's something I think a lot about. I think ultimately just investing in healthcare and providing funding to the ecosystem, especially in underserved areas, is something that, we can do as a way to hopefully advance health equity. I think, it's definitely important to make sure that the companies can be viable on their own and as standalone entities. But then companies that have a mission that, address gaps in women's health or social determinants of health or different things like that, cancer screening, things that are, big gaps in healthcare that affect a lot of people that we do have the technology to address, is something that is really exciting. And I think figuring out how these technologies fit into the existing health system and how we can kind of shift the health system to make room for more of these technologies, make them more accessible, is something that we're really focused on. And so we really want to see more of these technologies exist in the world. And so, that's why we'll fund something like a Cancer IQ, which is helping to improve screening for cancer, or Unite Us, which is kind of a software platform for social determinants of health and connecting kind of these social services with healthcare. So just making sure that these companies have the funding to exist in the world and helping them find a business model that helps them exist on a standalone basis as well, so that they can continue to grow and help more people is really a focus for us.
That's amazing. I also really like Unite Us too. So another great shout out. That is incredible. As you were talking, you were really speaking about kind of this role of technology, or kind of how you see it looking within a healthcare system, or a pharma R&D system. For you, what do you see as the role of technology? Do you kind of see it as just something that can supplement existing healthcare structures? Do you see it as something that can completely change existing healthcare structures? I don't know. I'm just so curious to hear your thoughts on it.
It's such a good question. And I think, there's obviously this ideal that we want everything to be, cost effective and automated and fit into the system, but also maintain privacy, but also connect to, the hospital and the healthcare, data with something that could be useful in a clinical trial. Like, there is an ideal that, all the data would be shared and everything would kind of work out, but there are realities that are constraints. And so I think we've made so much progress in terms of data capture and having data talk to each other, integrating it together, turning the data that comes off of your smartwatch or in a clinical trial into something that can really generate insights. And I think the analytical tools that have come out, especially in the past couple of years, obviously everyone's talking about generative AI, but even just a general algorithm for like an X-ray that is able to, help a radiologist identify like a nodule, for example. Just having those technologies out there, it's so exciting. I think it's going to require so much collaboration to get it to that sort of like ideal point where, it's the utopia and it, you go to the doctor or you go to urgent care and that visit gets recorded in your EMR at your primary, there's just so many, it's such a fragmented system. And so getting to the utopia is going to take a lot of collaboration. But I do think that we are on a path to kind of getting to something that is, it's easier and more accessible for people and able to give better insights to the providers than, we had 10 years ago. So
I love that.
I do feel very optimistic about that.
That is incredible. And I think that is actually such a great segue into my next question that I really wanted to get your thoughts on too, which is, what are some of the emerging trends that you're seeing kind of just within the broader, healthcare industry at large? Anything that's exciting to you?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. So one thing we're seeing that's really exciting is I'm spending some time in kind of precision medicine and diagnostics. And so thinking about how can we use algorithms, data, AI to sort of streamline that process, do earlier diagnoses of diseases, and how can that drive better outcomes. And so one example of that is we're looking at, there's a lot of different companies that are using AI for, identification of lung nodules. And that's really helpful for early diagnosis of cancer and then improved outcomes down the road. And so I'm really excited about how, a lot of the time, if you're in the hospital for, something unrelated to cancer, maybe you were in a car accident, you're getting a chest x-ray, for example. a lot of the time, because cancer is not a focus of your chest X-ray, it's possible to miss something that could be like an irregular nodule. And so using AI tools to make sure that those kind of irregular nodules aren't missed, even when you're not in for that specific reason, is really exciting to me, because it seems like we have the opportunity now to just, you go in for one thing, but then we can also figure out other things that you may need to spend a little bit more time looking at, and to, improve your health or catch anything early, so that you have better chance of treating it.
Wow, that's amazing. And for you, as you are, I mean, just so at the forefront of technology, just in your current role, are there any things, any resources, any things that you look at to stay kind of up to date on what's the latest and greatest? I mean, I would imagine just being able to speak to all the experts that you have at Merck probably already gives you so much of kind of what's interesting and new, but are there any other ways that you kind of get your news, your knowledge, so that you can kind of, always be up to date?
Yeah, it's it feels almost like a fire hose of things when it
Sometimes,
comes to newsletters and articles and research that's coming out. But I think some of the best sources are, we love going to conferences. We love speaking with experts and hearing what they have to say. And it's a really great way to meet companies in the spaces that we're interested in, and kind of getting to chat about them one-on-one about what they do, and, what problems are they solving. So that's one way. Another way is, I just like to stay up to date with different, there are a million newsletters, but some are really helpful. So especially for the venture space, there's some more like venture specific newsletters that talk about trends, and then deals that are happening. And so that's really helpful. I also like Rock Health. That's great to kind of see what is happening in terms of fundraising, and where is money going, and what are the predictions. So that's also a really great source. And then just our team, everyone's always seeing different inbounds and fielding different conversations. And so we have our weekly staff meeting, and that's a great way to stay updated on what other people are seeing as well. And so it's a really great way to stay connected around, areas that we should be looking into, and things that we're excited about.
I love that. No, the fire hose description is so true. The power of the internet, but I mean, there is a lot of really, really great information out there, and it seems like you've kind of found the sweet spot of the things that you're kind of looking for or what interests you, which is, I think, very, very important. I love that. Wanted to also kind of ask if you have any advice or thoughts, maybe folks that are on the call right now that are kind of looking to raise around they have a product or a tool in the healthcare space. As you've been having so many conversations with founders and evaluating deals, do you have any kind of advice or strategies that you would want to share with folks that are looking to raise right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, right. So last year was definitely a challenging year for fundraising. It does feel like this year, everything's, loosening up a little bit. There's a lot more opportunities. And so I think understanding, first of all, understanding the fundraising market's really important. But then I think the way that you communicate your company and what your company does and the value prop, as well as sort of your roadmap, is really a great way to differentiate yourself to investors. I think what people are looking for right now is companies that are solving a need that has demonstrated demand from customers, with a clear business model, understanding how you're getting paid for whatever service or product you're offering. And then having I would say, like, it doesn't, depending on how early stage the company is, it doesn't need to be a exact path to profitability, but, demonstrating that you understand what levers need to be pulled and how to get your company there. And just really understanding the drivers of your business from kind of both a growth and like a cost perspective is really key for companies that are looking to raise.
I love that. No, that makes a lot of sense. It seems like it's being very, very intentional and very specific about, what you are kind of looking to achieve in terms of a value prop. I love that. Wanted to kind of ask too, I know we have about 4 minutes out. We definitely have some questions around I had shared a little bit more on it, but maybe just to kind of reiterate or kind of touch on it again around your thesis at Merck, is kind of some of the questions that we're getting is investing in women part of your thesis? Is that kind of a specific vertical of your thesis at Merck? Anything around that?
So I guess the way that we invest is across the value chain and in sort of areas that we do have therapies in. So it's definitely not out of the question at all because there's so many opportunities. There's so many companies that we're seeing that, can help improve access, that can help get the right therapies to the right patients. And so a lot of those companies, we're right now, a lot of time is spent in oncology because Merck is one of our largest drugs is an oncology drug, Keytruda. But we also have Gardasil, and so that's a vaccine for HPV. And so, anything that can sort of expand and help just really help our company sort of understand the best ways to help patients is really like within focus. And so a lot of our companies can, help multiple therapeutic areas. They can help both oncology, and there's also breast cancer. There's like a lot of areas that apply to women's health, I think, within our focus. So it's sort of like, we have the flexibility to spend more time there, I think. And I think down the road, it's something that we could definitely look into.
100%. I love that. And when you're not, doing all this amazing work at Merck, you are also part of HitLab's Women's Health Tech Initiative Board, which is incredible. For you, what kind of motivated you to join the board and just kind of be involved in kind of, this type of angle and kind of a broader community angle?
Yeah. So HitLab, we've had such a great experience working with HitLab in general. So I think our fund's really involved and, it's such a great group. And when I heard about the Women's Health Organization, it's been an area that I've been interested in for a long time. And I've been looking at ways to get involved and meet people that have a similar passion and learn about new companies in the space and new trends. And so I was really excited for the opportunity to get to spend more time with people with a similar interest and hopefully learn and meet a lot of new people and then, potentially work together from there.
Absolutely. The power of community. It's very true.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, I know we have about a minute out, so wanted to end with one of my favorite questions, which is, what words of wisdom do you have? Any pieces of advice that you have for folks on the call as they kind of continue or are starting out in their career journey? Anything that has kind of helped you as you've, thought about your career?
Yeah. So for me, I think the biggest thing is just finding areas that you're interested in and really trying to learn about them. I think, venture is a space where you can look at a bunch of different areas and kind of quickly get schooled up on them. And you get to learn a ton, which is, so unique and something I really enjoy. And you get to meet a ton of great people who, are experts in their field and you can just learn so much from. So I think, making sure that every day you're learning something. It sounds a little cheesy, but it's a great way to kind of just expand your horizons and your knowledge base. And then from there, I think, you might find something that you'd love to pursue from like a venture perspective. It can lead to new theses. It can lead to new connections with different companies. And so I think there's so many opportunities there. It's just being open to different people and learning new things.
I love that. Yes, always kind of be open to knowledge and learnings. I think is always such like a great way to live. So thank you so much, Abigail, for such an enlightening conversation. And fun fact, Abigail will be at the symposium tomorrow. So make sure if you want to keep the conversation going with her to check out the symposium. Really wanted to thank you for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great. It was great to chat with everyone.